Everybody. A week ago today, we hit our 3-year anniversary of being outside. So I figured it's time to do a quick overview for my verbose ability. We'll see how quick this goes. The day count on these videos actually starts from day 3, which was the 3rd day after we got our notice to vacate the apartment that we had been renting. We had gone out that day and we were just looking in the woods for some place to set up, and Kim spotted from the distance through the trees what looked like a structure. Turned out to be the corner fence post of the chicken coop that we were in. And those of you that have been watching since the start, or at least been watching through from the start of the videos, understand what I'm talking about when it comes to that chicken coop. We were there for about 10 months. And then we went out to Tillamook State Forest, which we spent almost a month up there before moving out to Tigard. Spent about 1.5 years in 3 different locations in Tigard within the same property. When we left Tigard, we wound up in a wetland area in the Oxbow Creek, which we wound up getting flooded out of. Spent 4 nights sleeping in the truck, standard cab, Kim, myself, and all 4 of our cats. That was interesting. We went back and found higher ground in the same area, but not in the Oxbow, and spent a few months there before the sheriff came down and day after Christmas, thank you dear, told us that we had to go. And after that, which, okay, I have recorded and posted since then. So after that, we wound up in what appeared to have been some sort of maintenance garage on an abandoned college campus. And while we were there, they were showing the property because they were trying to sell it to some development companies. They tried the doors, which I had changed the locks on, and couldn't figure out why their keys didn't work. Once they left, Kim and I quickly got dressed and went looking for a new place to move to. And within less than 48 hours, had all of our stuff moved out of there and the original locks put back on. Still wish I was a fly on the wall to see their reaction to that when their keys suddenly actually worked. From there, I have recorded but haven't been able to post due to technical difficulties. We were in an abandoned house that all evidence showed that it had been vacant for years, but we wound up finding out that apparently we had actually moved in just barely after the previous tenants moved out. But it was a house that was slated to be demolished. We got about 3 months in that, and when we moved out of there, we went behind another abandoned house that's slated to be demolished. And 2 days after we got there, a sheriff came by and left a note saying we had to leave. And about 2 days after that, 2 sheriffs came by and got us while we were home and told us we had to leave, and they were going to give us 10 hours as opposed to the 24 hours mandated by law. So we got the 24 hours, and thankfully a neighbor was kind enough to give us $200 so that we could get everything we needed in order to get our stuff moved. It's funny, we so often wind up with strangers that are willing and able to help more often than people we know are both willing and able. Oftentimes we have people we know that really aren't able, but they're willing. And those that are just scraping along themselves, barely staying above the line that we've dropped below. Just a little bit here and a little bit there, but it's helped. It's helped to make it so that we still have some faith in humanity. See, during these 3 years, I have actually completed 2 associate's degrees from community college, and learned that unfortunately 2 associate's degrees doesn't get you crap for employment around here. And those that have been watching the videos know that our ultimate goal is to actually wind up having our own property and living off the grid. Thus, the title for my page being Getting Off the Grid. We decided when we got our eviction notice, which thankfully no eviction on our record because we moved out in time, but we decided to change our own paradigm and think of this as preparation for when we have our own property and can live off the grid. Yes, technically we're homeless, except as Kim likes to say, everywhere we move, we make home. Y'all have seen the chicken coop, y'all have seen the carport, and what one of our friends refers to as tentception. Tent within a tent. We make it home. It's what we do. We clean up the areas that we move into, and more often than not, leave them in better condition than we found them. This is how we have spent our 3 years out here. My most recent post was a class assignment for American Sign Language, because I've gone back to school. Now at State University, well, Portland State University, working on getting my Bachelor's of Arts in film. I've decided that the foreign language that I wish to learn, American Sign Language. So, yeah, the latest post was my attempt at telling the story of where we're currently at. Unfortunately, 4 cats. Most of the distractions I had while trying to do that video were Tigger and Tiger, the 2 male cats we have. We're getting to the point right now where we're not so much tired of being outside, but we're tired of being bounced around. The spot we're in right now, while we're high up compared to the wetland around us, once the fall rains start to come, we won't be able to get in and out. So this location is intended to just be a summer spot, but unfortunately I keep having trouble with my truck. First it was transmission issues, I got that taken care of. Then I hit a pothole when I was leaving downtown Portland and knocked the vacuum hose off from the transmission and caused something to pop loose in the engine. Unfortunately, my insurance company, because there's no visible evidence of damage, is denying my claim regarding the pothole. So just like I had to figure out how to come up with money for the transmission, I've got to figure out how to come up with money for the engine. My mechanic says my best bet is going to be to simply replace the engine. This is an 81 Chevy pickup truck. if nothing else, I suppose I'll have the money when my fall term disbursement comes out. Hi, hippie. But we're making it. We're getting through. And if I can get the truck back up and running before fall comes, at least before the fall rains come, then we'll be packing up and moving again. And as I said, we're tired of being bounced around, either by the police or by nature herself. So we may be taking a break from this adventure outside and getting back into a place, but our ultimate goal is still to be living outside on our own property somewhere. So if we do wind up getting back into your conventional structured home, I may be taking a break from the videos, or I may just wind up making a bunch of videos with me ranting about my feelings on society, government, people's blindness to the issues in the world, environment, economics. You know, the kind of things you're not supposed to discuss at the dinner table. But, well, those of you that saw the last video got to see how we're currently set up anyway. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just say, have a great summer, everybody. Blessed be. This desolate landscape is not some desert scene. This is not the site of an archaeological dig. This is not the after effect of some war-torn nation. This is one stage in what humans call progress. This now barren ground, up until a couple months ago, was the grain field of farmland with a deep well, now all gone. On the edge of it, still forest land, with people that refuse to sell out. And further down, wetland, where all of this loose silt in the next rain will be washed to. These foundations are not the leftover remains of homes wasted after the recession, but an attempt at reclaiming. These are new homes coming up, inflating the house market, an attempt to make it appear that our economy is back on the rise. But these homes are not affordable housing for people. These homes will cater to a specific group. In order to make a few thousand homes for humans, this land, which was once all forest and farm fields, grass and grain, food and home source for millions of animals. It once looked like this, just the other side of the street. Millions of animals displaced to make homes for a few thousand humans. The deer that used to run the fields here are now barren ground, being run over by unobservant drivers. Vets are having to be called down to put down the remaining young. Those houses on the hill, replacing the homes of those deer, the coyote, the rabbit, the golden hawk that used to patrol the skies of this area, are now being chased out by murders of crow. Wind that once was stopped by the trees that used to be in this area now blows freely. A 10-acre plot of land sold for $3.5 million. And these homes are on plots that at best 0.15 of an acre for $500,000. And all this used to be forest land. And this is what mankind considers progress. Make homes for the people, taking homes from the rest of nature. Where once a natural stream ran through this area, we now have a man-made easement. A space for the water to collect, for the contaminations of the road to settle, and then for the water to continue on to the wetland and the creek further downhill. This tiny little space grassland, grain field, and forest. This tiny space is supposed to make up for that level of filtration before the water continues to that wetland, which beyond these power towers is still a cattle grazing field. This land is still used for livestock. Deer still roam that field. And the forest beyond, they still find home. With moles and voles, coyote, woodpecker, golden hawk, bats.
what point did mankind as a species decide that we were to be above nature instead of part of it, apart from it instead of living with it? At what point did mankind as a species decide to subjugate nature instead of living in harmony with it? And at what point will mankind remember that we are in fact a part of nature, not something separate from it, not the masters of it? Will we remember before it's too late? Or is it too late already?